World War I officially began on July 28, 1914, when the dual monarchy of Austria and Hungary declared war on the Balkan nation of Serbia. The fighting in Western Europe began 5 days later, on August 2nd, when Germany occupied Luxembourg and then invaded neutral Belgium. The German battle plan, called the Schlieffen Plan after its creator, General Count Alfred von Schlieffen, was to then sweep in a series of wheeling parallel arcs southwestwards into France and then wheel east towards Germany, enveloping the French army in a huge pincer. It almost worked. But having reached the outskirts of Paris on September 5th, the gray German tide was stopped. Exploiting a break in the German lines on the Marne River, the French Fifth Army and the much smaller BEF, that is, the British Expeditionary Force, attacked and opened up a 30-mile gap between two German armies. A few days later, on September 9th, the German Chief of Staff, Helmuth von Moltke, blinked. Plagued by rotten communications and fearing a major breakthrough, the German armies retreated northward some 40 miles to a point north of the river Enne. The German armies dug in, and all at once, what had for 6 weeks been a war of movement became, for the next 4 years, a positional war of trenches and attrition. The battles that collectively stopped the German advance came to be known as the Miracle on the Marne, a euphemism suggesting divine intervention, that in the darkest hour, God intervened on the side of the French and British. But for its participants, there was nothing miraculous about it, just a slog through hell that saw a total of over 1 million casualties. The British Expeditionary Force was essentially destroyed, and it would take England some 20 months to once again field an army large enough to make a difference on the Western Front. Gustav Holst, 1874 to 1934. The world watched transfixed by these events. Among the watchers was an English music teacher and composer named Gustav Theodor Holst. At the time the war broke out, he was the director of music at the St. Paul's Girls' School in Hammersmith, an independent K-12 girls' school in West London. While he composed when he could, weekends, evenings, during summer break, his day job was to teach music and direct the choirs at the St. Paul's Girls' School. Even though he was nearly 40 years old when the war broke out, Holst immediately volunteered for military service. He was rejected on medical grounds. He was nearsighted, had digestive issues, and neuritis, inflammation of the nerves in his right hand. Holst was mortified by his rejection, especially in light of the sacrifices being made by those around him. His wife became a volunteer ambulance driver. His brother, Emil Holst, served on the Western Front. His friend and mentor, the 42-year-old composer Ralph Vaughan Williams, served in France in the Royal Medical Corps. His friends and fellow composers, George Butterworth and Cecil Coles, were both killed in action. Well, if Holst couldn't fight, he could compose, and that he did. And among his most beautiful, personal, and haunting works is one he composed in August of 1919, entitled Ode to Death, and set for chorus and orchestra. The work was motivated by the waste and futility of war and dedicated to the memory of his friends and colleagues who died in battle.